some of the common legal issues that we see, I'm going to kind of breeze through these. Consistent application of policies, as I mentioned. Wage and hour compliance. This seems like a simple concept. It's a very complicated set of concepts. But just making sure that what you're doing with your compensation, whether that's commission only, we see a lot of interns working for free right now. There's no such thing as people working for free in Washington. Intern or not intern, if they're not getting credit or you're not paying the minimum wage, it's illegal. But over the last 5 years, there's been a whole lot of people working for free. Catherine's laughing. So recognize that is a critical thing that is misinterpreted often. Things like meal breaks for folks who are hourly and non-exempt. They're required to have meal breaks. They're required to have paid lunch breaks, or unpaid lunch breaks. So making sure that you have those things in place. And then we talked about documentation. This is an area where most businesses just don't do a very good job, and that is formalizing what you need to keep, how you keep it, where you store it. And if you say you're going to do it, do it. And then the last piece that we try not to harp on, but is a real high-risk area right now, is the independent contractor versus employees. So if your business uses contractors, make sure that they are, in fact, contractors under state law and federal law. It's a big area of crackdown by both the IRS and the state agencies for folks who use a lot of contractors that should be classified as employees. So that's another area that's just a hot item right now. And when you're talking about, we hear the word contract employees. Contract employees are people who are still employees under contract, which is different than a 1099 independent contractor. So be careful with the terminology you use as well, because again, it muddies the water and it makes them look a lot more like an employee when they're not. And compensation for contractors is a whole different ballgame. You know, we see folks who offer equity incentives to independent contractors because they're helping to build the website, for example, behind the product, and without that person being paid a lesser wage, this thing would never happen. So there's a lot of these tools that can be used for independent contractors as well, just not as directly applicable. So in summary, the things that I want you to walk away from my part of the program with are, when you're thinking about compensation, match it to the values and the incentives that are going to drive that person. And again, it's going to vary. It's going to vary based on age. It's going to vary based on stage of their life. It's going to vary based on their experiences over the last 5 years, for example. So thinking about each person individually and what is driving them and matching the tools to them, at the same time fitting the tools into what the business needs so that you're able to balance that cash versus alternative benefit structures for them. Formalize the processes. We all love documenting process. I know everybody in the room loves process. But really have those processes in place so that you have tools and policies, not only processes, that will enable the business to make smart decisions and reliable, consistent decisions. Documentation and then consistency and compliance. Once you put these things in place, make sure you apply them consistently across the board. And make sure that what you're doing is in compliance with the law. Sometimes the things that seem obvious aren't, which we find from time to time. So that's what I have, and I'm going to turn this over to Catherine.
I'm Catherine Dovey from Compensation Works, and we help businesses manage their pay and reward business results, essentially. Well, anyway, I'm really pleased to be here this morning. I'm going to try and give you some tips this morning so that you don't end up with one of your pay plans looking like this. This looks like one of my cousins and brothers got together and tried to work on something. They're all engineers, and they always come up with the most bizarre things. So we have two things that I want to really focus on today. I'll give you some additional information about labor trends, and Michelle did a beautiful job of recapping some of the trends. I have a few statistics and some additional data to support that. And then we'll talk a little bit about retention strategies as well. So I'm curious about, just in this room, what all do you guys have? Have you guys decided yet what your budgets are going to be for 2013, and what are those, if you're willing to share? And then I'm curious how many of you have had a pay freeze in the past. So let's talk first about budgets. Do you guys have your budget set for 2013? What kind of numbers are you seeing? Or what numbers are you guys talking about changing?
Well, it's different. We were in 42 states and 3 countries, but in this area it's 3.
3. Okay, great. That's what it's a really common number. Michelle, do you have something to add there?
We typically do cost of living adjustments, but our budget is increasing just because of new hires.
Okay.
So
Okay, so I'm going to talk about cost of living versus cost of labor in a little bit as well. So how many of you have had pay freezes in effect as well? Good, this is amazing. I just did a webinar yesterday and we didn't have anybody on the call with pay freezes in effect. Remember in 2009, 43% of the folks in the Puget Sound area, 43% of companies in the Puget Sound area had pay freezes in effect, including Microsoft, so this is a big shift. And then how many of you have reduced or eliminated 401k matches? Have any of you guys done that? Nice. We were seeing that a lot, and I imagine if that's going on, you guys probably are trying to cap staff, right? You're continuing to hire, which is great. Yeah.
I'm actually not replacing staff, and partly because of this ordinance, and we don't really know how it's going to impact us yet. So I have no incentive to hire staff right now because it's just going to increase my
Costs.
costs.
Interesting.
So that's where we're kind of holding back right now.
Interesting. Okay, thanks for sharing that. That's great.